Here we are.
Yeah. John 6, man. There it is.
Goodness.
Eucharistic miracle.
You want John 6, huh? I used to love it when Catholics brought up John chapter 6. They thought that referred to their Eucharist. Mm-hmm. Oh, they'd prattle on and on about John chapter 6, eat my flesh and drink my blood. Oh, that was it. I would just love to get into a discussion like that with a Catholic, because then we eventually got to the end of Jesus' sermon, which he gave at Capernaum in the synagogue there. We get to verse 63 and he concludes it. And when we get to that verse, I got you Catholics right by the throat, because it says the flesh profits nothing. My words are spirit and life. The flesh profits nothing. Okay, you've just been talking about the flesh, the blood, the flesh. Jesus says the flesh profits nothing. He's speaking symbolic. There you go, Catholics. Get out of the Catholic Church and become a real Bible Christian. The flesh profits nothing. Now, how do I deal with that answer? How do you deal with it? What is a Catholic going to say if in my Baptist days I was sitting next to you on a plane and I said that? How's a Catholic going to respond? They're going to go,
Maybe.
Keep reading.
The answer to that is very simple.
Yeah.
So the answer is very simple. What does Jesus mean by the flesh? The flesh profits nothing. First of all, if it means Jesus's flesh, you prove too much to say his flesh profits nothing. That would be a ridiculous statement. When you do a search on my iPhone, I have a program called Verbum. Now, it's a whole Catholic Bible study program. It's on my laptop, on the cloud, everything else. I can do a search of that word, the phrase, the flesh. You can't do that with a book. You can't search for a phrase, but you can do it with a computer. So I do a search for the flesh. Where does it show up? First time, Matthew 26. Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane. They keep falling asleep on him. He says, the spirit is willing, but
the flesh is weak.
Mm-hmm.
What does he mean the flesh is weak? He means this, me.
Humanity.
My flesh, the flesh is very weak and incapable. The flesh profits nothing when it comes to the spiritual life. Jesus' words are mystery, sacrament, life, and spirit. The flesh, this counts for nothing. Jesus, especially when I talk to young people, I said, Jesus is not from around here. He's space alien. He came outside to bring us information and revelation and facts that we could not know with the flesh on our own, with the gray matter in between our ears. We could never come up with this on our own. And Jesus came and told us, this is my body and this is my blood. And he's telling us something we could never attain. And then he says, guys, you can't understand it in the flesh. The flesh profits you nothing. This is a mystery. John, a guy one time told me, Steve, when you become a Catholic, I can prove to you it's not the body and blood of Christ. And I said, how can you do that? He says, I want you to come over to my house. He was a biochemist at Ford Motor Company. He had a laboratory in his house, microphones and telescopes and microscopes, everything. And he says, when you take the Eucharist for the first time, I want you to come to my house an hour later, and I want you to vomit up the Eucharist. And we're going to put it in my microscope and test it. And if it shows that it's a carbohydrate, that means it stayed bread. If it shows it's a protein, then I'll agree with you that it became the body and blood of Christ. I said, okay, we'll do it. But I want to know one question first. Hypothetical. Say that we are in Capernaum and you bring your microscope with you, and we're going to test out this Jesus guy, Yeshua. And this guy comes walking down the path in Capernaum. He's got flies buzzing around his head. He's got camel dung between his toes. And I say, is that Yeshua right there? That guy's sweaty right there? Yeah, that's him. That's him. That's Jesus. Okay, good. I take my knife, and I always carry my knife here on. I cut the tip off of Jesus's finger. Okay, and I bring that tip of the finger, and we put it in your microscope. Could you detect the divinity of Christ with your microscope? He says, well, no, I could only detect his humanity. Jim, what good's your microscope then? If you can't detect the divinity of Christ, and we know he's God, and you can't detect that with your microscope, then what good does it do to prove the Eucharist, which is also Jesus? So he said, touche, but I'll be back. But the fact is that we don't know these things, a lot of things, because of our eyes, our ears, our nose, our smelling, our touching. Our senses are very weak. They're very incapable of knowing things. And so our senses lie to us every day. I don't have a coin with me, but pretend I should always have a coin for this. But say I have a coin in my hand. Can I tear that coin in half, the nickel or a quarter? Can I tear it in half? Can I bend it? Even you guys are strong. Mr. Farmer Man there, if I gave you that quarter, let's see if you could tear it. You're a strong guy. You throw bales of hay around and pick up baby cows and throw them around. But you think think you could tear that coin or bend it? No, you can't do it. But our senses lie to us about the substance of the coin, because if you go to physics class in high school, you learn that coin is made up of atoms, and atoms are tiny little things with protons, electrons, and neutrons spinning around really fast. An atom is 99.9% space, not solid. It's a space. But because it goes so fast, it tricks our senses into thinking it's a solid. So when you have a coin, that is 99.9% space, not a solid. It only tricks us. And our senses lie to us about the substance of the coin. And our senses lie to us about the substance of the bread and wine on the altar. It's now the body and blood of Christ. There's a lot of things we can prove that our senses cannot perceive. The flesh profits nothing when it comes to the mysteries of God.
And there's, yeah,